Hey YouTube world and JCX2 BBY fans. Been a minute since I've had a car repair video up. I figured I'd do one. Working on my old Camaro today, 02 Z28. Here in the great state of Nevada, we have emissions testing, which is the bane of any car enthusiast. I've had 50-50 results getting this car to pass emissions. Got it to pass last year. Service engine soon light was on, reset the computer, you know, the whole 9 yards. You do the GM drive cycle, try to get the test to complete, and then run it over to the smog place before the SES light comes back on. It worked last year, didn't get it to work this year. I kept having, on this car, the LS1 engine, kept throwing the P0410 light. And if you're familiar with it at all in these cars, and if you're watching the video, you probably are, that refers to a problem with the secondary air injection system. Which is a fairly simple system, but you know, it's crucial to get past these smog tests. And I honestly don't know how effective the whole system is. I think the point of it is to try to heat up the cats a little quicker when the engine's cold. So it's a system that only really runs when at the first start of the day. And from what I gather, just for a few minutes. And on this car, it really consists of course, it's already out because I think I know my problem here. This is the air pump. And it mounts under the car like this. It's kind of right here under the driver's side headlight over here, and you have to take off one of the splash guards underneath the car. It's like 6 or 7 bolts. No big deal. It can be a big deal if it's been on there for 16 years like mine has, in which case, instead of just using the ratchet to get it off, get out your battery-powered impact and use that impact to break the rust. Otherwise, you're going to have those captured nut holders under there. They're just going to spin and break things, and you're going to be mad. But to back up a little bit, so I have that code. The code just means, in general, the system's not working. And so, with the exception of the pump, you have the wiring, and you have that tube sticking up there, and then that tube over here runs around. And it basically goes into 2 check valves. One is here, and the other one is here. So there's the rubber tube, and then there's a solenoid back there and an air diverter valve, which is what splits the one intake, or I guess output from the air pump into 2 different outputs, two different check valves. So what I read the most common problem was, on these cars anyway, was that these check valves here, which have it's a rubber pipe, a rubber tube into this steel check valve, and then it goes into a metal pipe that goes down into your manifolds. It's one on each side. Well, obviously, since these things are connected to the exhaust, they get carboned up and gummed up, and they stop working, and it can block the flow of air, setting off the light. What most of the troubleshooting I read said to do was to take apart. This is the air output from the pump, and it has a union right here, and you just pull this off, and you should feel air coming out of this. So on a cold start, you separate this out, turn on the car, and you should feel air pumping out of this tube. If you do, you know, the wiring's good, the relay's good, the pump is good. Put that back on, and then you take off the rubber tube on either side of these. And then you should feel air pumping out of the rubber tube here and out of the rubber tube over there. If you do, then you know that your problem is most likely going to be these check valves. Okay, but if you don't feel any air coming out of those tubes, it's probably the air diverter valve or the solenoid back there up underneath the cowling, which I'm sure is all kinds of fun to get to. If it's even possible. It's probably possible. Probably just sucks. If you don't have any air coming out of here, out of the output of the pump, your most likely problem is a bad pump, or maybe a blown fuse or relay. But I don't see, wiring on these cars seems to be pretty good for the most part. So what I did to check the wiring was, you see here you have a relay for the air pump and a relay for the air compressor. In fact, I'll show you. It's the same relay for the air pump and for the air conditioning compressor. So what I did was, my AC works in this car beautifully. All original for 16 years, still going. So I know my compressor works, so I took this relay out, put it in here, and vice versa. Started the car back up, still no air coming out of here. So here you can see you've got a 30 amp fuse for the air pump. So I took this fuse out already. I checked it with a a multimeter. It had infinite resistance on the fuse, so I know the fuse is good. Then I switched the ignition on to run, and then I checked voltage at the posts down here, and I had like 11.8 volts with the key on. So I know that there's juice getting to the fuse. I know it's getting through the fuse. I know it's getting to the relay. I have a feeling that that system is working. The electrical system is working as designed. So this is suspect, and it mounts up in the car like this. Scratch that. How does this thing mount up in there? Because I took that thing out. It's like this. Okay, so I just went ahead and took this out. If you can get to it, if you can get this connector undone, there is plenty of wiring under here under the car. You can stick your multimeter in here and turn the car on, see if you have any juice. But that's only going to work in the morning before you've had the car running. If you're trying to do this now, I mean, the system is designed to not run this pump when the engine is and the cats are at operating temperature. So if you don't have any voltage down here and you've already been running the car, well, okay. But if it's first thing in the morning and it's cold and you can check this, you should have 12 volts running down here. So since I've already been running the car today, what I did, because this looks like just a simple DC motor, I took just two random pieces of wiring and I stuck them in this connector, because there's only two connections in here, and I stuck black to negative, and I put the blue on the positive post, and I listened for anything to come out of this motor. Absolutely nothing. No noise, no whirring, no clicking, no nothing. So there was a fair amount of corrosion out of both of these tubes, especially this one. I can only assume because of the location of that pump and I've been through some pretty deep water with this car a few times when I lived in Hawaii. The rains would come down there, and you'd just be stuck in it. There's nothing you can do. And I can only assume that water just got up in there enough times to probably short out the motor. There's an open in there or something, and not working. No bueno. So, and I think most cars that have this system, they're all going to be about the same. Stuff is going to be in a different location, but you're going to have an air pump somewhere. You're going to have your wiring, you're part of it. You're going to have, well, if you have two manifolds, you'll have a valve that diverts airflow, and then a solenoid up there that turns, I actually don't know what that does, to be honest with you. But if you're not getting air up there to these valves, then the solenoid's not going to be the problem anyway. And then if you have two manifolds, you'll have two of these things. And if you only have one manifold, you'll have one. And then you'll see it. It's a pipe that comes up off your manifolds, and then on the other side will be a rubber tube. So that's the secondary air system in a nutshell. That P0410 annoyingness on the LS1 F bodies of the day. And so this motor I found on Rock Auto, you can get one for about $20. Then there's the various 5% discounts you can get, but you always got to pay shipping there. So you were looking at $125, $130. O'Reilly's and AutoZone, they're about $140 by the time you get done paying tax. I found one of these on a Delco one. The one I found on Rock Auto was Delco. The ones at O'Reilly's and AutoZone were not. But I did find a new Delco air pump on Amazon for $104. If you have Prime, it's free shipping. So I don't know exactly what I'm going to do yet. I would really like to get this done. I may just have to pony up and pay the extra to go, local and get the stuff in town. I don't know. But anyway, if you have any questions about your secondary air system, that's it in a nutshell in general, and that's it specific to LS1 F bodies. And if you have any questions, let me know. And as always, Thank you for watching my channel.